Patricia Hartwell sat at her kitchen table on a gray Monday morning in mid-November, a cup of tea cooling beside her, a worn leather journal open in front of her. At 71, this had become her morning ritual, the one thing that kept her tethered to the world since David died. She picked up her pen and wrote at the top of the page, November 18th, gratitude list, number 47. 47 lists. 47 mornings of forcing herself to find things to be grateful for when all she wanted to do was crawl back into bed and give up. Her therapist, Dr. Brennan, had suggested the practice 6 months ago, 3 weeks after David's sudden death from a heart attack. Start each day by writing down 5 things you're grateful for, Dr. Brennan had said. They don't have to be big things, just 5. It rewires your brain, helps you see past the grief to what's still good in your life. Patricia had been skeptical. How could writing a list change the fact that her husband of 49 years was gone? That she was alone in a house that felt too big, too quiet, too empty without him? That she woke up every morning reaching for someone who wasn't there? But she tried it anyway, because she was desperate and didn't know what else to do. The first list had been brutally hard. I am alive, though I'm not sure I want to be. My daughter Emily called to check on me. The neighbor brought over soup. The sun came up. I guess that's something. I got out of bed, even though it took 3 hours. Over the weeks and months, the lists had gotten slightly easier. Not because the grief lessened. It hadn't. But because Patricia had gotten better at noticing small things. A cardinal at the bird feeder. A good cup of tea. A memory of David that made her smile instead of cry. Her granddaughter's voice on the phone. Still, some days were harder than others. And today, with Thanksgiving approaching, the first Thanksgiving without David, Patricia struggled to find even one thing to be grateful for. She stared at the blank page. Her pen hovered. Finally, she wrote, 1. I woke up, though I'm not sure why I should be grateful for that. She paused. 4 more to go. Come on, Patricia. 5 things. You've done this 46 times. You can do it again. 2. I have tea. David always made my tea in the morning. I miss that so much it physically hurts. But I have tea, that's something. 3. Emily invited me to Thanksgiving at her house. Even though the thought of Thanksgiving without David makes me want to disappear. Patricia's pen stopped. She couldn't think of a 4th thing. Everything felt gray and pointless. Thanksgiving was in 4 days, and all she could think about was the empty chair at the table where David should be. The phone rang, making her jump. She considered not answering. She wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone, but it might be Emily, and Emily worried when she didn't answer. Patricia picked up the phone. Hello? Mrs. Hartwell? Patricia Hartwell? An unfamiliar male voice. Yes? This is James Caldwell. I'm calling from Riverside Senior Living. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Patricia's guard went up. Was this a sales call? I'm not interested in... No, I'm not selling anything, James said quickly. I'm the activities director here. I'm calling because... Well, this is going to sound strange, but we have a resident here who's been asking about you, insisting we find you and call you. Patricia frowned. I don't understand. I don't know anyone at Riverside. That's what I thought, but Mrs. Chen has been very persistent. She says she knows you. That you were friends many years ago. She's been quite agitated about it, actually, which is unusual for her. Mrs. Chen? I don't know anyone named... Patricia stopped. A memory surfaced, distant and faded. Wait, Margaret Chen? Yes, that's her, Margaret Chen. So you do know her? Patricia's mind was reeling. Margaret Chen. She hadn't thought about Margaret in... How long? 40 years? 45? We were friends, a very long time ago, in college, but we lost touch after graduation. I haven't seen or spoken to her since 1978? Maybe 1979? Well, she's here at Riverside, and she's been asking for you every day for the past week. Says it's urgent that she see you before Thanksgiving. Would you be willing to come visit her? Patricia's first instinct was to say no. She barely had the energy to get through her own days. The idea of visiting an old friend she hadn't seen in 45 years, in a nursing home, felt overwhelming. But something made her hesitate. Margaret Chen. They'd been close in college, roommates for 3 years, best friends, inseparable. And then after graduation, life had taken them in different directions. Margaret had moved to California for a job. Patricia had stayed on the East Coast, gotten married to David, started her career, raised Emily. They'd exchanged a few letters in the first year or two, then lost touch completely. Patricia hadn't thought about Margaret in decades. And now Margaret was in a nursing home, asking for her. Urgently, before Thanksgiving. Is Margaret okay? Is she ill? She's 93, James said carefully. She's in reasonably good health for her age, but she's in memory care, Alzheimer's. Most days she doesn't remember much. But for the past week, she's been very lucid, very insistent about finding you. Our staff thinks it's important. Sometimes people have moments of clarity before the end. We wanted to honor her wish to see you if possible. Patricia felt something shift in her chest. Margaret was dying, and she wanted to see Patricia one last time. Where is Riverside? Patricia asked. We're in Meadowbrook, about 40 minutes from you. Would you be able to visit this week, perhaps tomorrow or Wednesday? Patricia looked at her gratitude journal, at the incomplete list mocking her from the page. She'd been struggling to find even 4 things to be grateful for. And now this, a call from the past, a friend she'd lost touch with, a chance to say goodbye. I'll come tomorrow, Patricia said. What time? After hanging up, Patricia sat in stunned silence. Margaret Chen, after all these years. She pulled out her phone and searched online, Riverside Senior Living, Meadowbrook. It was a nice facility, according to the website. Memory care, assisted living, skilled nursing. Margaret was in memory care. Alzheimer's, 93 years old. Asking for Patricia urgently before Thanksgiving. Patricia thought about Margaret as she'd known her. Vibrant, brilliant, funny, ambitious. They'd met freshman year at Penn State, been assigned as roommates, and had instantly clicked. Margaret had been pre-med, fiercely smart, the first in her Chinese immigrant family to go to college. Patricia had been studying literature, dreaming of being a writer. They'd stayed up late talking about everything, their dreams, their fears, their plans for the future. After graduation in 1978, Margaret had gotten into medical school at Stanford. Patricia had married David and moved to Pittsburgh for his job. They'd promised to stay in touch. For a year or two, they'd written letters. But life got busy. Patricia got pregnant with Emily. Margaret was consumed by medical school. The letters became less frequent, then stopped entirely. And now, 45 years later, Margaret was dying and asking for her. Patricia looked at her gratitude journal again. She picked up her pen and added, 4. A phone call from the past. Margaret Chen remembers me after all these years. 5. A chance to say goodbye to an old friend. Even though I don't know why she's asking for me, I'm grateful for the opportunity. She closed the journal, her incomplete list now complete, and for the first time in months, she felt something other than grief and emptiness. She felt curiosity, purpose, a reason to leave the house beyond just going through the motions. Tomorrow, she would see Margaret Chen again after 45 years. She had no idea what to expect, but she would go. For Margaret. For their friendship. For whatever urgent thing Margaret needed to tell her before Thanksgiving. The next morning, Patricia drove to Meadowbrook. The 40-minute drive felt longer, her anxiety building with each mile. What would Margaret look like after 45 years? Would she even recognize Patricia? What could be so urgent after all this time? Riverside Senior Living was a pleasant-looking facility, well-maintained grounds, cheerful exterior. Patricia checked in at the front desk. I'm here to see Margaret Chen. My name is Patricia Hartwell. The activities director called me yesterday. The receptionist smiled warmly. Oh yes, Mrs. Hartwell. James told us you were coming. Mrs. Chen has been so excited. Let me page him for you. James Caldwell appeared a few minutes later, a kind-faced man in his 40s. Mrs. Hartwell, thank you so much for coming. Margaret has been asking about you all morning. She's having a very clear day today, which is wonderful. He led Patricia through the building to the memory care wing. I should prepare you, James said gently. Margaret's memory is fragile. She might not remember you immediately. or she might remember you perfectly. With Alzheimer's, it's unpredictable. But when she talks about you, she's very clear, very insistent. They stopped outside a door with Margaret's name on it. James knocked softly and opened the door. The room was small but cheerful, personal photos on the walls, a window with a view of the gardens. And in a chair by the window sat an elderly woman, tiny and frail, her black hair now completely white, her face deeply lined. But when she looked up and saw Patricia, her eyes, those same bright, intelligent eyes Patricia remembered, widened with recognition and joy. "Patricia?" Margaret's voice was thin but clear. "You came! Oh, you came!" Patricia felt tears spring to her eyes. "Hello, Margaret?" "I'll give you some privacy," James said, stepping out and closing the door. Patricia approached slowly, not sure what to do. Margaret struggled to stand, and Patricia rushed to help her. "Don't get up, please. I'll sit with you." Patricia pulled a chair close to Margaret's. Up close, she could see how much time had changed her friend. Margaret was so small now, so fragile. But her eyes were the same, sharp and knowing. "You look the same," Margaret said, reaching out to touch Patricia's face with a trembling hand. "Older, but the same, still beautiful." "So do you," Patricia lied gently. "Liar," Margaret smiled. "I'm 93 and half gone, but my mind is clear today, finally clear. I've been trying to remember your name for a week, trying to make them understand I needed to find you. Today I woke up and everything was sharp again, like the fog lifted just long enough for this. I'm glad you found me. I'm glad I came." Margaret gripped Patricia's hand with surprising strength. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you 45 years ago. I don't have much time. Not in general, but today. The clear moments don't last long. I need to say this while I can." "Okay, I'm listening." Margaret took a breath. "Do you remember graduation? Spring 1978? Patricia thought back. "Of course. We celebrated together. That Italian restaurant off campus. You'd just gotten into Stanford Med School. I was about to marry David." "Yes. And do you remember the last thing I said to you when we said goodbye?" Patricia tried to remember. It had been 45 years ago. No, I'm sorry. I don't remember exactly." "I told you I loved you," Margaret said quietly. "Not as a friend, as more than that. I told you I'd been in love with you since our sophomore year, that I'd been too afraid to say anything because it was 1976, and girls didn't say those things to other girls. But graduation felt like the end, and I couldn't let you go without telling you." Patricia stared at her, memories flooding back. That last night. The restaurant. Walking back to campus. Margaret saying something that had made Patricia uncomfortable, confused. Something Patricia had chosen to forget, to reframe as drunken sentimentality, as the emotion of graduation making everyone say things they didn't mean. But Margaret had meant it. "I remember," Patricia whispered. "You told me you loved me, and I didn't know what to say. I was engaged to David. I told you I loved you too as a friend. And then we hugged and said goodbye, and I never saw you again." "You broke my heart," Margaret said, but there was no bitterness in her voice, just sadness. "I went to California and tried to forget you. I threw myself into medical school, into my career. I became a successful doctor. I helped people. I had a good life. But I never married, never let myself love anyone else the way I loved you." Patricia felt tears rolling down her face. "Margaret, let me finish, please. While I'm still clear." Margaret gripped her hand tighter. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty, or to say you made the wrong choice. You married David, you had a daughter, you had a beautiful life. I'm telling you because I need you to understand something." "What?" "That loving you, even unrequited, even from a distance, even for all these years, was the best thing in my life. It gave me a standard, a measure of what love should feel like. And even though we never spoke again after 1978, even though you married someone else, even though you forgot about me, I never forgot you. I carried you with me. You were my first love, Patricia, my only love, and I'm grateful for it." Margaret paused, her breath coming harder. I started losing my memory 2 years ago. Alzheimer's. Most days now, I don't know where I am. I don't recognize the nurses. I forget I'm 93. But you know what I never forgot? You. Your name. Your face. The way you looked at graduation when I told you I loved you. That memory stayed sharp, even when everything else faded. She smiled, tears in her own eyes now. Last week, I had a moment of clarity. I realized I was dying. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And I thought, I need to see Patricia one more time. I need to tell her. I need her to know that she mattered. That she still matters. That loving her was worth it, even if it was only from afar. Patricia couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was hearing. I know you loved David, Margaret continued. James told me he died recently. I'm so sorry. That kind of love, 49 years together, that's beautiful. But I wanted you to know that you were loved by someone else too, by me, for 45 years, across the distance, without expectation, just pure love. Margaret's grip weakened slightly. Patricia could see the clarity in her eyes starting to fade, the fog beginning to return. Thank you for coming, Margaret whispered. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being the person I loved. It made my life richer, Patricia. You made my life beautiful, even from 3,000 miles away. Patricia leaned forward and hugged Margaret gently, this tiny, fragile woman who'd carried a secret love for 45 years. I'm sorry, Patricia whispered. I'm sorry I didn't know. I'm sorry I forgot. I'm sorry I let you go. Don't be sorry. Just be happy. Promise me you'll be happy. David's gone, but you're still here. Don't waste the time you have left being sad. Be grateful. Love again if you can. Live. They sat together for another hour, talking when Margaret was clear, sitting in comfortable silence when the fog returned. Patricia told Margaret about her life. David, Emily, her career as a librarian, her grandchildren. Margaret listened when she could follow, smiled when she couldn't. When Patricia finally left, Margaret was drifting to sleep, her hand still holding Patricia's. Goodbye, Margaret, Patricia whispered. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for remembering me. Thank you for this gift. In the car, Patricia sat in the parking lot and cried. Not sad tears exactly, but something complicated. Grief for David, shock at Margaret's confession. Gratitude for being loved so purely, so constantly, by someone she'd forgotten about. Sadness for lost time, for roads not taken, for love not returned. But also something else, something like awe. Margaret had loved her for 45 years, had carried that love through medical school, through a successful career, through aging and illness and memory loss, had held on to Patricia's name, Patricia's face, Patricia's memory, even when everything else faded. That was extraordinary. That was a miracle. Patricia drove home in a daze. When she got back to her kitchen, she sat at the table and opened her gratitude journal. She turned to a fresh page and wrote, November 19th, gratitude list number 48. 1. Margaret Chen loved me for 45 years, even though I never knew it. Even though I forgot her. Her love was constant, pure, and without expectation. I am grateful to have been loved like that. 2. I got to see Margaret one more time before she dies. I got to hear her story. I got to tell her she mattered. 3. David loved me for 49 years. Margaret loved me for 45 years. I have been so incredibly loved in my life. How did I get so lucky? 4. I am still alive. I have time. Time to be grateful, to live fully, to honor the people who loved me by not wasting the days I have left. 5. This moment, this awareness, this understanding that even in grief, even in loss, I have been blessed beyond measure. Patricia sat back and read what she'd written. Something had shifted in her. The gray fog that had surrounded her since David's death felt lighter somehow. She'd spent 6 months drowning in what she'd lost. David. Their life together. The future they'd planned. All of it gone. But Margaret's gift, her confession, her faithful love, her final wish to see Patricia, had shown her something different. Not what she'd lost, but what she'd had. What she still had. She'd been loved. Deeply, purely, constantly loved. By David, yes, but also by Margaret in a different way, across the miles and years. And that love didn't disappear just because the people were gone. It was still there, woven into the fabric of her life, part of who she was. Over the next few days, Patricia thought constantly about Margaret, about that confession, about 45 years of unrequited love, about the courage it took for Margaret to tell her, even knowing it wouldn't change anything. On Thanksgiving morning, Patricia got up early and wrote in her journal before heading to Emily's house. November 21st, Thanksgiving. Gratitude list number 49. 1. I am grateful for David. For 49 years of marriage, partnership, love. For the life we built together. For Emily, for our grandchildren, for every morning he made me tea, and every evening we sat together. He was my home. 2. I am grateful for Margaret. For college friendship, for her brilliant mind and kind heart. For loving me faithfully, even when I didn't know it. For teaching me that love doesn't have to be returned to be real and valuable. 3. I am grateful for grief. As painful as it is, it's proof that I loved and was loved. It's the price of connection, and it's worth it. 4. I am grateful for Dr. Brennan's suggestion to write these lists. For 49 days of forcing myself to find gratitude. For this practice that prepared me to receive Margaret's gift with an open heart instead of bitterness. 5. I am grateful for today. For Emily's invitation. For the chance to gather with family. For being alive to experience this Thanksgiving, even though it's different than I imagined. For the awareness that being here, being present, being grateful, that's how I honor everyone who loved me. At Emily's house, surrounded by family, Patricia found herself smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. When Emily asked her to say grace before the meal, Patricia surprised herself by speaking from the heart. This year has been the hardest of my life. Losing David felt like losing myself. But in the midst of that grief, I've been given unexpected gifts. Reminders of how loved I've been. How loved I still am. Today, I'm grateful for this family, for this meal, for the love that surrounds this table. And I'm grateful for the people who aren't here. David, and a dear friend I just reconnected with after 45 years. Their love made me who I am. And I'm grateful. Emily hugged her afterward. Mom, you seem different, lighter somehow. I feel different, Patricia admitted. I think I'm finally understanding what it means to be grateful. Not just for the good things, but for everything. The love, the loss, all of it. That evening, Patricia got a call from James Caldwell at Riverside. Mrs. Hartwell, I wanted you to know that Margaret passed away this afternoon, peacefully, in her sleep. The nurses said she seemed at peace. She'd been talking about you, about how glad she was that you visited. Patricia felt tears, but they weren't bitter. Thank you for calling me. Thank you for finding me and letting me see her. She left something for you, a letter. The nurses found it in her room after she passed. Would you like to come pick it up, or should we mail it? I'll come tomorrow. The next day, Patricia drove back to Riverside. James met her in the lobby and handed her an envelope with her name written in shaky handwriting. Patricia waited until she got home to open it. Inside was a single page, written in Margaret's hand. Dear Patricia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm glad. Not because I wanted to die, but because I got to see you one more time before I did. That was my miracle. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being the person you are. Kind, beautiful, worth loving. I know you're grieving, David. I know this Thanksgiving will be hard. But I want you to know something. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live fully, to love again if you can, to find joy in the years you have left. Don't waste time on regret. Not about me, not about anything. We both lived the lives we chose. I chose to love you, and I'm grateful I did. You chose to love David, and I'm glad you had that. We both made good choices. Keep writing your gratitude lists, keep looking for the good, keep living. That's how you honor everyone who loved you, by being fully alive, fully present, fully grateful. With love, always. Margaret. Patricia held the letter to her chest and cried. Good tears, healing tears. Tears of gratitude for the gift Margaret had given her. Not just the confession of love, but the permission to live, to be happy, to move forward. That night, Patricia wrote in her journal, November 22nd, Gratitude List, number 50. 1. Margaret's letter, her final gift, her permission to live fully and be happy. 2. The miracle of timing. That Margaret had a clear day when I visited. That we got to really talk. That I got to say goodbye. 3. The reminder that I have been so loved. By David, by Margaret, by Emily, by so many people. I am rich in love. 4. The understanding that grief and gratitude can coexist. That I can miss David terribly and still be grateful for the life I have. 5. Hope. For the first time since David died, I feel hope. Not that the grief will disappear, but that I can live alongside it. That I can honor David and Margaret by choosing to be present, grateful, alive. Patricia closed the journal and looked at the number, gratitude list number 50. 50 days of practice. 50 days of forcing herself to notice the good, even in the midst of devastating loss. And on day 47, right before Thanksgiving, when she'd been struggling to find even 4 things to be grateful for, the phone had rung. Margaret Chen. A miracle. A gift. A reminder that she was loved, that her life mattered, that gratitude was worth practicing, even when, especially when, it felt impossible. Margaret had loved her for 45 years, David had loved her for 49 years, and Patricia had been given the extraordinary gift of knowing both those loves, of being shaped by them, of carrying them forward. She would keep writing her lists, keep looking for gratitude, keep living. Because that's what Margaret had asked, that's what David would have wanted. That's what honored both of them, choosing life, choosing presence, choosing gratitude, even in grief. List number 47 had been incomplete when the phone rang. But it had led to everything that followed, to Margaret's confession, to healing, to hope. Sometimes the miracle isn't that grief disappears. Sometimes the miracle is a phone call that reminds you how loved you've been, how lucky you are, how much reason you have to be grateful, even when your heart is broken.